germinating. Thank you, Anna. We have been in the incubating and just germinating phase of sort of spring. And that's meant that we've been, as you know, looking at lots of funding applications and figuring out where we cast our seed. And we've also been thinking about the how we weave together and how we create more cross-community linkages. And we've been appointing these wonderful community weavers who you're going to get to know better today. And that's also been work that we've been doing. And the Seed Library have been working hard to be thinking about, what platform could we have that can help us to connect better to one another and see each other's places and see each other's work. So it's been this kind of sort of springtime under the soil, making connections, just beginning to get our seeds going. And now here at the Solstice, we're ready to share that kind of blossoming and beginning with you, that it can really take root and be present with you for our next little while. So that's what we're going to be doing. And I am going to hand over now to our wonderful community weaver, Devin, because the community weavers have been thinking about a kind of a metaphor, an image that they can work with to support us all to think about and be present to the weaving capabilities, the weaving potential of connecting with one another and learning from one another. And Devin, I'm not going to say what that is. I'm going to let you talk to that metaphor. And Devin's going to bring us all sort of into a shared space through a story. Over to you, Devin.
Good morning, beautiful people, or afternoon. Y'all are in a different time zone. I am over in the United States in Virginia. And I'm really excited for this today. I've been sitting a lot with this solstice, this moment of an abundance of light, but also the shift back into darkness. And what are the things that we are really bringing fire to, and what are the things we're ready to let go of? And so in preparation, as we kind of begin to, as we've been thinking of it, weave this web, I've personally been doing a lot of study, exploration, investigation into the spider stories and the spider mythologies around the world. And I would like to read one of them that has really been dancing around my heart. And it is Grandmother Spider Brings the Light. Long, long, long ago, when the earth was very new and the animals had no fire. Why? Without fire, they kept bumping into each other. Hey, watch it. You stepped on my toe. And it was difficult to find food. One day, Raven came swooping down into the forest. He called for the animals to come together, for he had big news. I've seen it, he called. Fire, it's beautiful, full of color. Color, cried the animals. What is color? For without light, there is no color. And heat, called the old man Raven. Heat, cried the animals. What is heat? For all they had known was the cold of the dark. Someone must go and bring fire back, so we can all enjoy it, said Raven. The animals looked to one another. And just where do you say this fire is? At the edge of the world. It is a long way away, but someone must go. So Possum came forward. I will go. I will bring the fire. Possum was small, but he was quite a little warrior. He was fearless. Now, Possum knew nothing about fire, so he did not prepare. The animals cheered as he ran. Puckada, 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 encouraging participation. He ran and he ran and he ran. Puckada, 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 puckada. And then he started running a little slower. Puckada, 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 puckada. Poor Possum was soon out of breath. And by the time he reached the end of the world, he made it there, but It was a lake of fire with orange and red and yellow flames, just like Raven had told him. But because Possum didn't know about fire, he stared at it, mesmerized by its beauty. And soon poor Possum's eyes became dark and singed. And even to this day, Possum's eyes are sensitive to the light. So he only goes out at night. He went and he gathered up a hot, burning coal and placed it in his long, fluffy tail to keep it safe until he got back to the animals. He turned and ran. Puckada, 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 puckada. And he ran. Puckada, 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 puckada. And he ran slower and slower. Puckada, 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 puckada. All the way back to the animals. He was so out of breath and he couldn't speak. But all the animals gathered around. Where is the fire? Show us the fire. Possum got his second wind. Here is your fire. But when he unfurled his tail, all the hair was burned away. The fire was gone, and Possum was left with a bare tail. And to this very day, his tail is bare. And when Possum saw that his tail was gone, he fell over in a dead faint. Poor Possum. Now who will go? Said the animals. It must be someone fast. So Buzzard swooped down. I will go. I am swift. I will fly over the mountains and lakes and rivers. I will bring back fire. So Buzzard stretched his wings and flew off into the dark sky. He flew on and on. Finally, he looked down and saw it, a lake of fire. But Buzzard did not know about fire. He swooped down as fast as he could, faster and faster and faster, and then he felt it, the heat. Never had he felt something so hot. Buzzard had nowhere to put the heat except into his beautiful headdress made of many colorful feathers. There went Buzzard, higher and higher. It was then that Buzzard noticed that his head was beginning to burn. Oh, poor Buzzard didn't know that fire could burn, and fire burned every feather off his head. And if you've seen a buzzard, you know that to this day, they have red and scorched and scarred heads from trying to bring back the fire. Of course, when he got back and he had to tell the animals what happened to the fire, the animals felt sorry for Buzzard. Other animals then tried, strong, fast, wise animals, but they all came back bearing a scar and no fire. Finally, one day, Grandmother Spider came forward. I will go, she said in her weak, humble voice. What? Cried the others. You will go. Ha! You are too little, too weak, too slow, and too old. Yes, I am old. But I have listened to the stories you told by trying to get fire. I understand fire. I may be slow, but sometimes slow is better. And as far as being too little or too weak, I think not. Strength can be measured in many ways. Unlike the other animals before her, Grandmother prepared for her journey. She found some wet clay and fashioned it into a small pot that she placed on her back. Then she set out for that lake of fire. Step by slow step, she marched on and on. It was a very long time by the time Grandmother Spider found the fire. She thanked the fire for its beauty and its heat. She asked if she could have a small coal to place in her clay pot. Fire gave Grandmother a small, tiny coal. Now the clay pot had plenty of time to dry on the way there, and so it was ready for the fire. She put the pot on her back and started on her long journey back. As she walked, the coal grew bright, firing the inside of the pot to make it strong. Finally, Grandmother Spider came home to her animal friends. They gathered around. Grandmother, Grandma, they cried, where is the fire? Oh, now be patient. Gather some dry sticks and leaves and logs for me. Quickly, the animals did as grandmother said, and then she carefully poured out the red-hot coal onto the wood. Immediately, it burst into flames. The animals cheered. Yes, grandmother spider, you have brought us the light. In grandmother's wisdom, she took some of the sparks in the fire and placed them inside trees and rocks so others could make fires without going into the lake of fire. Grandmother spider was very tired by now, but she knew she had one more thing to do. So she took her pot and put 2 coals in it and walked to the top of a tall mountain. There she threw the larger piece into the sky, and that became the sun. And then she threw the smaller piece, and that became the moon. And then she took the sparks at the bottom of the pot and threw them into the air, and they became the stars and the sky. And then she spun a web around the universe. And to this day, she pushes and pulls on that web so that the sun and moon and stars move to provide day and night and the seasons of the year. It was grandmother spider who taught us many things. She taught us about poetry, pottery, and weaving. She taught us about fire and light. She taught us that we are all connected on the web, each one of us having our place in this. As weavers, we've been thinking about all of the ways that we can weave this community together. And I just want to personally say how grateful I am that y'all are part of this web that we're building of imagination around this beautiful world we exist in. I'm going to hand it off to Hannah. Thank you.
Thank you, Devon. We are going to return to this story a bit later. So just take a moment, just to notice, is there an image from that story that sort of sits with you more than any other image? Or a particular character? You know, is it a burnt possum tail? Is it the smell of eagle feather? Is it something like a pot? What, you know, I don't know. Whatever image maybe stays with you, and if you can make a note of it, you might want to, but I'll just remember it. If not, we'll come back to it a bit later. Okay. Thank you so much for that, Devon. I'm just putting in the chat what we're going to be doing today. This is a slide-free experience. There are no slides today. Oh no, there might be some slides, but not from me. And so I just a little overview of what we're doing. So we're going to spend a bit of time hearing from the new, what we're calling micro roles. So the new people that are helping us with the team and sort of making the community happen. We're going to hear from them. And we're going to hear from them in terms of what they're offering and what they've got in the pipeline for you, so that you'll know what to sign up for and how to get involved. We're going to have a little bit of time in pairs, talking about this story and how it relates to your life, so we can get to know someone for a little bit of time from the community and connect. And then we will be done. So I'm going to move on to our next, the first thing on that agenda item, which is these introductions to these new kind of micro role teams that we have. Well, some of them are new and some of them are not new. We know about the Fund Circle. That's not so new. The Seed Librarians were set up at the end of last year to help us create our website, which is that also? Yeah, that's also in the chat. I've just put it there. And they've been helping us to document and share the practice that you're all doing. So they've also been around for a little while. And we've also got the community weavers, and there are 3 of those. You've just met Devin, but there's also Yuri and Dion. We're going to hear from each of them. And the community weaving is creating opportunities to meet together and meet across the community and strengthen those cross-community links. Then, of course, there's us, the stewarding team, which is myself, Anna, and Jake. So we're each going to have more like a minute to introduce ourselves, because we're already a little bit behind time. And yes, like, so we're going to have a little bit of time, just super quick, to introduce ourselves. And I'm going to start with the stewarding team, and I'm going to start with either Anna or Jake. If you're up for, one of you is up for going first. And here's the questions they're going to be speaking to. Off you go, Jake.
I'll go first just for time, because I could see me and Anna staring at each other, looking for some sort of indication of who wanted to go first. Hi everybody, my name's Jake. I'm one of the hosts of the community with Hannah and Anna. You can see the prompts that I've been asked to talk to, but now I've got a minute, so I'm going to cut it down a little bit. The metaphor, the image, the symbol that came to mind this morning when I was thinking about collective imagination was that of the cave of darkness, which is totally paradoxical at this time of light, the solstice. I can't tell you why it came to mind right now, but it reminded me of a beautiful session that I went to with Cyrus, Marcus Ware, and Debee Young, two amazing imagination practitioners from North America, last year. And we sort of had this sense of when you lose vision temporarily, how the sort of everyday sort of assumptions drop away. And this, if in the darkness, in this kind of fertile void, fertile darkness, there's a sense that assumptions drop away and possibilities emerge. So that was my image of collective imagination this morning. Um, and Hannah, shall I stop? Is that a minute, or do you want a bit more? Bit more, all right. I guess my roots in collective imagination, there's loads to say about that. But just on a really kind of mundane, sort of professional level, I spent lots of time working in service design and innovation in the public sector, and kind of eventually got the feeling that these processes that call themselves change processes were really processes of renewing business as usual, the status quo, which was harming all of us. And it was through stepping back from those that collective imagination really came to the fore for me. This idea that we have this huge amount of power for collective imagination together, but we have to use it very wisely. And so we need people like Devon and Hannah, who've shared these beautiful practices with us already, that help us step into other ways of imagining and being together. So that's my 2P. Hannah, you're up.
Anna, Anna, I'm going to jump in because I'm going to ask Dion to go next, who's one of our weavers, but she has to leave in just a moment. So we're going to have a little sidestep to a weaver, and then we'll come back to you, Anna. Dion,
Yeah, can you hear me?
yes.
I'm just checking it's my metaphor you'd like to hear about. Oh, I can't hear you.
Hannah's on mute, but yes, I think any
Sorry,
of the
go.
topics that you want to speak to, Dion, is good.
Any of it you want to speak to, Dion? Introduce yourself and then tell us briefly what you're up to.
Okay, so my name's Dion Williams and I'm a community weaver. And I'd like to talk about my roots into collective imagination. So one of my passions when I was a kid was around music. I absolutely loved music and I played quite a few instruments growing up. And I suppose like sound and my passion for sound gave me a route into collective imagination, because one of the things I'd love to do was around kind of jamming with other people or getting together with other musicians and thinking up a sound or being in a space where we could imagine like what a sound might be. We called it jamming. So we would literally not know what we were going to do, but we'd just sit in that space and bring forth whatever was in our what we could do, whatever is in our spirits, within our imagination, and we'd all build on that collectively. And I think that really gave me an opportunity to build roots in sitting with uncertainty, imagining with others, and that kind of emergent space, but through not words, but just with sound, which was really powerful and really kind of inspires me to still be in this space, but in different ways. Thank you.
Thank you, Dion. Do you want to say, Dion, just a little about where you work and what you'll be leading as a community weaver, given us we won't have much time for that later?
So just kind of fast forwarding, I now work for in local government within Dudley. So I work for Dudley Metropolitan Borough Council, and that's really kind of given me a chance to experience how opposite in some senses the public sector can be to that, dealing with uncertainty, being at a space that people can imagine, and being able to be in a place where you kind of graft and be a part of that emergence piece. So I'm really passionate about bringing collective imagination into public sector spaces, in particular where I am now in local government. Sorry, couldn't say that word. So I've been playing with how to bring collective imagination into that space. My role is I'm acting senior manager for talent and OD, so I'm an OD practitioner by trade, and actively working with my organisation and across place to bring collective imagination, long-term thinking and regenerative practice as normal practice within the public sector. So that's what I'm really passionate about, and hoping to kind of weave that as a community weaver, bring and find other people that have a similar curiosity into that space as well, and host spaces for us to have those conversations.
Thank you, Dion. So all of you who are interested in local government and sort of democracy and imagination and place-based working, Dion's going to be starting some conversations around that. So do look out for them. Invitation will be coming through the emails as usual. But also, Dion, if you have a date and time for your first one, do just leave that with us so that we can say that a little bit later on today, because Dion has to unfortunately dash.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dion. All right, so that was a rather exciting sidestep to a community weaver, but I'm going to go to Anna, who's equally exciting in a different way. Off you go, Anna.
Anna, I know that Anna's having some technical issues, so can we go to somebody else and then see if we can go back to
Brilliant. Okay. All right. Well, I'll do me then, because I'm also one of the stewards. So I am director of Canopy, and Canopy is an organisation that works as an imagination partner in all different kinds of contexts. I work a lot with Jake, which is who I founded Canopy with. And I'm going to start with my roots as well. My roots into collective imagination have been storytelling and mythology, which I hope will give enough of an excuse for the slightly weird answer to the metaphor question. And in the King Arthur stories, often called the Arthurian literature, there is an animal. It is called the questing beast. And if you are so fortunate as when out hunting to catch a glimpse of it, it is part serpent, part leopard, part lion, part goodness only knows what, part dragon, I think. No one ever sees the whole being, all in its entirety. You only ever get a glimpse of it. But if you should happen to see it, if you should be so lucky when you're out hunting, you will forever be compelled to quest for the questing beast. It becomes a kind of a lifelong vision. And I experience, when we experience imaginal knowing, that's what it's like for me. It's like getting the hoof of the questing beast, and I want more of it. And by imaginal knowing, I mean that space where together we know something arising out of our communal goodness that's more real than the reality that seems threatening. That's my metaphor. All right, and I'm gonna sidestep the last one in favour of others, and I'm going to go to the fun circle next. So in the fun circle, we have Tim, we have Cass, and we have Sarah. Sarah, could I start with you?
Thank you, Hannah. And I'm gonna share my time because I think we've been listening for half an hour now. And I'm gonna intentionally invite a little bit of chaos. So can I invite us all to unmute just for a second or so and really welcoming all the environmental noises around us if you can. And then on the count of 3 to say hello to each other in any kind of language that feels right for you at the moment. Just like as we enter each room, we'll greet each other. So 3, 2, 1.
Chitty!
Everyone.
Hi.
Hi.
Thank you, everyone. I want to share something about like what is your. My name's Sarah. I'm based in Rotterdam, the Netherlands. I'm not a native speaker, so sometimes I have to switch. If you see me looking like this, it's like, okay, which language should I say this? And when it comes to collective imagination, oh wait, I wanted to share a song, but I can't share it, so that's okay. But it's actually a cover of the song by Whitney Houston, I Wanna Dance with Somebody. Maybe I can send that link. But for me, collective imagination is something that's in a way as simple as a song. It's do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, but everyone will have their own interpretation. And then by really bringing that energy, you can make something real and your own. But in that lyric of I Want to Dance with Somebody, it's also about connecting to the wider circle. It's something that you cannot do alone. So being a part of the fund circle from a background in public administration and facilitation, normally I'm the one like applying for funding. It has been such rich learning together with Cass and with Tim. And 10 more seconds, I'm gonna stop here. I think that's enough. Hannah, you're still muted.
Thank you, Sarah. Sarah's new to the Fun Circle, so we're especially glad to have her with us today. Cass, would you jump in next?
Hey everybody, my name is Casimira, Cass for short. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm based in the Washington, D.C. area in the United States. And I have been a member of the Fun Circle for this is the 3rd year. Hold a dual role as Fun Circle and also community member, and it has been a joy and a journey and a process. My roots in collective imagination, I think they just stem from me being an artist, visual artist, and I'm also a dreamer. And so it's been really fun to be in community with other people who imagine abilities and have somebody to be able to like share language with and just feel like seen and witnessed. The spider metaphors that Devin had shared at the beginning were really resonating with me because I describe my practice a lot as being a dream weaver. Spiders are very much associated with the dream world, being able to weave and bridge between portals and worlds, and it feels very at home when I was hearing that story. So thank you for sharing that. And I will pass it to Tim.
Thanks, Cass. Sorry, Hannah, we've taken over now. We're just going to run the show now. So I'm Tim. I wear lots of hats. Normally, I am actually wearing a hat, but in this context, I'm both a Fun Circle member and I'm a seed librarian. So I do lots of stuff. I'm based here in the north of Leeds, in the north of England, and I'm a regenerative designer. I tend to do speculative type stuff because I think that we need to feel, we need to know this moment, not from our head, but from our heart. And for me, that's what collective imagination is all about. The image that kind of I want to share about collective imagination is the solstice at Stonehenge, because like once a year we have this beautiful moment where this strange ritual space from which everyone is locked out of and kept a distance for most of the rest of the year. One time a year, everyone's invited back in, and it becomes a kind of beautiful chaos. And there's rhythms, and there's kind of fracturing, and people go off and do their own thing, but they come together and do something beautiful as well. And it's kind of, you know, it's kind of an important time when we tune back into some deeper knowings. And for me, that's what collective imagination is about. It's about a way to transport people from perhaps their everyday world where they feel a bit locked in or locked out or unable to be or feel the way they want to be. And collective imagination can change that and can be really, really powerful. So that's what I love about it. That's why I've been part of the community for the past 3 years. Yeah, that's me. I'm going to hand over to Chris, my fellow seed librarian.
Thanks, Tim. Are we doing seed library now, or the Weavers?
Yeah, go for it. Go for
Cool.
it, Chris.
Right. So thanks, everybody. I'm Chris Harris. I've been producing some of the social and technical infrastructure here at the CIPC as a seed librarian, and continuing to do some more things this year that you'll hear about. My roots as a design practitioner, I guess, in systems and interaction design and digital product design. I've done some big system consulting stuff on ecosystem services and biodiversity conservation, linking land stewards with funding, and also as a creative practitioner, as an artist, usually my work involves some aspect of like site-specific ecological interaction, bringing people into some kind of animist encounter. I don't have a metaphor, but when I think of collective imagination, I see us all active in growing and maintaining like the worlds that we want to live within. And collective imagination for me feels like what we do and what we practice to ask for what we really want in the world. I like the metaphysics or the ritual of collective imagination in terms of linking social and ecological systems, whether that's the rights of nature movement or valuing ecosystem services or the Aboriginal practice of dream time or the dreaming. I'm really interested in the ways we can equitably manage our social ecological resources. I have a little quote here. There's a book I really love with that same title, Linking Social and Ecological Systems. I'll paraphrase the scholar Nancy McCarthy, where she writes that for the cooperation in the management of resources, we need collective action. And to promote and enforce collective action, we need strong social cohesion, which can come from either kinship-based or close community ties, or the belief in supernatural forces. And while I recognize not all collective imagining practice needs to be so overtly spiritual, I am really excited about the animist side of this for resourcing and maintaining our capacity and knowledge that we're part of the planet. And doing so with democracy, with equity, and with co-design for natural resource management. So that's why I'm here with you all. And is there anybody left? Has Anna regained control? Yes.
Chris, we've got the community weavers to go. Okay. So we did hear from Dion, of course, but we'd like to hear also from Devon and Yuri. Devon, how about you go for it now?
Absolutely. So my metaphor is actually very much a lot of the story. It's like the woven world. Someone offered it to me years ago that there's just like this web above us or below us, around us, that any person has the opportunity to like pull a piece down and then speak through that collective wisdom through our own personal experience. And I think it really speaks to, if you look at, there are like over 150 inventions that were simultaneously invented in the world that we know about, right? And it's just this kind of like, there is this collective wisdom, this collective imagination field that we all get to pull from and then speak to through our own experience. And I think that is the thing that's always really driven me around collective imagination work. For me, the roots in it came from my family. I grew up in a very creative, very playful family. My mom, we used to have block parties, and my mom would get a bunch of moving boxes and tape them all together into the shape of a castle, and then just let all of us kids go free in it. So there would be tons of paint, and we would just paint these like magical castles. We would have guards at the edge being like, no, this side is under construction. Well, like the side was drying so that we wouldn't get it all. I mean, we did always end up with paint all over ourselves, but yeah, just since I was a child, creating, co-imagining new worlds has always been a really core part of how I love, how I connect. So I'm gonna leave it there and pass it over to you.
Thank you. Yuri.
Yes, I also saw Anna is back operational, so I don't know if she wants to go first, or I'll go.
You go. She'll
Okay, Yuri. I really appreciate it, but yeah, I can speak afterwards.
Okay, so my name is Uri, and I was worried that my daughter came in, so I had to open the door, and I was like, when am I? But the metaphor, so yeah, when I grew up in a small village in the Galilee, and I feel my initiation to collective imagination was kind of walking in the fields, the back of my house, and going on adventure on my own with nature. Can you hear me okay? Is that better? Yeah. So the landscape of my childhood and the imaginary adventures that I would have in the field is for me my initiation to imagination. And I think I got reinitiated to the light and the dark parts of the collective imagination in my military service years after. And I have a specific moment of being underground in this complete darkness in the midst of war, and yet there was peace and just love coming, radiating from all around me. And I think right now my new initiation to this is being a father and looking at my daughters play and invent stories and remembering how I was them and how I am them, and how that access to the field of knowing that is beyond knowing, which is through nature, through magic, and magic being, noticing the miracles, the small synchronicity miracles that are all around us. And I guess the aspect of the collective is what I feel is the question that I hold, let's say, is how do we heal our connection with this collective imagination that at the moment we live in, it seems like, in a sort of nightmare of collective imagination, which is a manifesting of all sorts of, I feel, unexpressed taboos and dark fantasies that has to do with trauma. And so again, as we are in a verge of world war, I ask myself, how do we get back to the view of a child playing in the fields and harness the knowing of nature to guide us back to the path? So that's my intro and roots to this. Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Go, Anna.
Thank you. Yeah, sorry, that was a nightmarish moment where I was trying to make things happen on my screen and it was just entirely frozen, but my video is working, so apologies for that. My name's Anna. I'm working with Huddlecraft. We're one of the organizations who are partnering on this stewarding work for the community, the Collective Imagination Practice community. It's been an absolute honor and pleasure to be part of this community for a couple of years now. Huddlecraft bring people together to pool their resources, their gifts, their skills, their talents, their networks in order to grow, to learn, to create change together, to ultimately shape alternative futures. We've been doing some huddling within the community over the last couple of years, and we'll continue, inshallah. And for me, my connection with this work really started with this community. So I've been learning so much since I've been a participant, a member. And the metaphor that I've been working with, and it might sound a little bit obvious, but it is the tree. And I believe the oak tree is one of the most important trees of this time of summer solstice, the king of the trees. And I imagine the roots needing to be really grounded for collective imagination to happen well, for there to be a connection with the earth, with presence, with reality, with what the real situation is in the world. There needs to be a strong trunk, there needs to be a strong community around this, with a healthy nervous system moving messages from what's happening on the ground and what's happening in the imagination. And then I see the branches and the leaves as this beautiful dance, this way of finding the light, the way of touching untouched parts of the sky, and then feeding that hope and that vitality back down into the ground. And yeah, it's been something that I've been, I think there's a remembering in this work. It's learning from nature, it's learning from ancient wisdom, from communities who've been doing this for time immemorial. And with that, I just wanted to finish with a little poem called Ancestors, written by a woman called Emily Taylor. And it says, "You were carried here by so many hands, the hands of your ancestors, pouring your life like precious water from cup to cup, passing it forward. And however unsteady their hands were, here you are. So live your life like you are thousands of years in the making."
Well, thank you, everyone. So, folks, this is your wider sort of stewardship team. There's the three of us who are kind of coordinating the whole thing, but we have these community weavers, and we have this seed librarians, and we have this fun circle, and all of us are part of making the community happen. So what we're going to do now is we are going to hear a little bit more from each of those groups, really hearing what they've been learning recently, this last 6 months, and also what they're offering into the next 6 months. So we're going to hear from each group. But maybe before we do that, it might be nice just to have a little stand up and a shake for everybody, because it's so far it's been a bit city downy, hasn't it? So I'm definitely up for that. Help me focus. I live on a canal boat and there's a speedboat going up and down, so it's quite weirdly noisy and wobbly where I am. And a bit of a shake definitely helps. Lovely. Bit of a stretch. Right. Lovely. Okay. Fun circle. Can we start with you, as you've been so busy recently?
Sarah, Cass, do you want to start? All right, I don't mind.
So I think I can start a little bit, and then Tim and Kaz, if you will help me, that would be great. As I joined, I think just a month ago, right? So from my experience this month ago, like getting 249 applications And then when I was talking about it with my friend, we immediately sent each other gifts of different cats and trying to like feed them all at the same time. I love cats and I love all cats, and it's like really going through these applications, and they were all wonderful, and really try to feel it out, the three of us, in a way of what are the themes and what are some of the important deep code that we would like to shift with moving these resources. Yeah, so what we have tried, the three of us, knowing that we have different positionality and we will root for different projects, so to speak, and really being open and transparent in that, and then trying to find not a middle ground, but like what are the things that we would like to fund. What we see is that there are a lot of, also because of the limitation of the resources, what can you fund for 3,000 a pound? So there are a lot of workshops and also different kinds of, sorry about that, creativity, embodiment, community. I'm having a bit of a fog, Tim. Would you like to jump in from here?
Sure, unless Cass wants to say anything.
Yeah.
I'll follow your lead. Go ahead.
So picking up from where Sarah was, yeah, we did see an awful lot of workshops. We got bits for work that were based around workshops, but there were a couple of other themes, and we've always had lots of workshops in the Fun Circle bits for obvious reasons, because I think that's the base of all of our practice, is, you know, bring people together and typically that looks like a workshop. But we started to see this year in particular lots of people building on that and starting to offer toolkits, card-based approaches. So there's definitely been a maturing of all of the different practices through the past 3 years, which we're starting to really see that cementing itself in. Saw an awful lot of community building, lots of work with diaspora, lots of different identity politics, and it's clear that particularly for marginalized groups, collective imagination is being really roundly used as a way to bring people together. So we funded, like, I think it was 22 projects in the end out of the 249. But there's, just to give you an example of that, there's the beautiful project called More Somali Than the Moon, and it's from the Somali diaspora in the UK. And there's a story in Somali culture about the moon, and what this project was about doing was sharing that story from queer people in the Somali diaspora, so that they could use that story, which was owned by the entire community, but so that they could use that story and internalize it for themselves, so that they were more Somali than the moon. And for me, that was just one of those beautiful projects which works with an established community, and takes some established myths but makes them available in a new way. So that was beautiful. Cass, I know you were keen on us reflecting what's happening in this moment. Do you want to talk a bit about how we're trying to use the Fun Circle to do that?
Yeah, this year, I mean, every year, there's been multiple crises happening in the world. Our political and environmental contexts are increasingly chaotic and uncertain, and we saw that very much reflected in the proposals. And so it was really cool to see all of the different ways that folks are using collective imagination to meet this moment, and responding to what's happening in their local place-based settings. So being able to use collective imagination, not just as a practice space, but also to be able to impact change. We saw some proposals from Los Angeles, where there's a lot of immigration and civil unrest that's happening there. We've seen some proposals from the Welsh border and how there's like a language shift that's happening in the local politics, and how collective imagination can bridge conversations between local politicians and the community members. I'm sure there's many more that I can't think of off the top of my head, but just being able to see it not just as a practice space, but also as a tool that folks are able to access in this moment to give folks more possibility and more hope as things continue to dysregulate our nervous system and make everything feel chaotic. And we wanted to really prioritize those proposals as well, because it also just showed the flexibility of the technology of collective imagination, that it's not just us gathering or us doing cool things or being imaginative in these sort of closed community-based spaces, but also how can these rippling impacts, how can this tool, this technology be serving us to like actually make the transformational impacts that we're hoping to see. Yeah.
Thank you.
And then
Yeah.
just to fit, so obviously we tiny amount of, well, an amazing amount of funding, £60,000 to support activities. That meant there was so many projects that we were unable to support, but this year, now that the community is developing, and now that we've got things like the Seed Library coming on stream, and we've got new community platforms, we've got the community weaving role. What we wanted to do with the Fund Circle is really embrace everyone who use the Practice Fund as a way of drawing their practice out from them, to say, well, whether we're able to fund it or not, together we've got a huge amount of resources that stretch way beyond just finances. So this year we're going to have our first Practice On conference, which is on the 1st of July. And basically, it's going to be an open space for us to come together and really delve into some of our practices, those that we started to codify when people went, what does this mean? If I was going to bid for £3,000, what would I do with this crazy technology? Well, now that's still live in everyone's heads. We're going to bring everyone together for an unconference, and basically we're going to try and thread some of those themes together, so that we really understand not what we're doing. Sorry, my wife's just come in and asked for a car key. Terrible timing. There you are. So yeah, 1st of July, we'll hold open sessions basically to talk a bit.
Perfect timing, Mom.
What we're doing. I know, mums, they're amazing. What we're going to have open sessions to talk about what we're doing, and then some sessions to talk about who we're doing it with as well. So the what we'll talk, there'll be space for embodiment and soundscapes and dreaming and language and all that sort of, basically whatever you guys want. And then on the theme stuff, we'll start to, we'll group people together. Are you doing this in a place? Are you doing it in a political context? Are you doing it with young people? Are you doing it with people with different abilities? So the Young Conference starts to be a way that we can liberate all the other bits of our community. And I think because we've reached this point where we've got a whole range of different tools beyond just the funding that we started with, hopefully that'll really start to help the community sing a bit better together.
Thanks, Tim. We're running a little bit behind time, so I'm going to ask for the next two groups to try and be a little bit tight if possible. Thank you, Fund Circle. So unconference 1st of July. What time, Tim, on the 1st of July?
Sometime in the afternoon.
Sometime in the afternoon, people.
Yes, tease. Hang on. Sorry, look, I'll give you a proper time.
I've got it. It's 3 p.m. till 4 p.m. No, till 5 p.m. Is it a 2 hour? Yes, it's 2 hours. 3 till 5 p.m. BST.
Make sure you sign up to it if you'd like to. Okay, so I'm going to move on to the community weavers. And yeah, I don't know who's going to take it away. Who would like to talk to that? I think Dion probably isn't back. So maybe, Yuri, could I ask you to start us off with a sort of what's coming up?
Yeah, I want to just say that, like the grandmother spider, we are intentionally slow, but also conditionally slow with this. And we have been meeting one-on-ones with Dion and Devin because of time commitment and time differences. And one of the more concrete things that come up is the spider and the spider metaphor and the archetype and basic goodness that you heard in the beginning of today. And so maybe Devin will share more about that. And with Dion, a call that is coming out for involving local government in our community. So there is like an internal weaving and an external weaving. An external weaving will be about growing our community and having more people from the local government interested in what we do and how do we bring collective imagination to that space, facilitated through Dion's expertise and networks, and hopefully with all of you weaving with us together, which is then the second part is this metaphor of the spider and seeing ourselves as spiders, weaving something together. So, and maybe like the grandmother spider, bringing the light and finding a strategy for bringing the light for the community. So that's a bit, we want also to be in support of what is coming up. So that's also, we're waiting for the high-low to come in and you'll hear more about it. And working rather than separated iterations to be as a one thing. Being guided through this metaphor of the spider and basic goodness. So that's what I have for now, and I pass it to Devin.
Thank you. We noticed very early on, it was very much like, okay, we have to do all of these things and get all of these things done, blah, blah, blah. And one of the things that we really landed in our time together, really just like weaving connection, was that in order to build a grander web between all of the imagination work that's happening around the world, we need to really deepen and get an opportunity to get to know each other and support each other. Just as humans beyond what we're doing in the world, just to be together. So our priority right now is to get us all together so we can get to know all of the other people in this really beautiful space. So that's going to be that and the government event that is happening, I believe, on the 19th. I'm not sure if Jake, you might have the actual date, but Dion is hosting that, I believe, on towards the end of July. And then we will also have around that week or the week after, just keep your eye out on your email, and also the WhatsApp group chat. If you're not in that, I highly recommend jumping on that as well. You'll get notifications about our opportunity to just weave in connection together. So we're really excited about that.
Thank you, Devin. That's wonderful. All right, so very much things coming up from the community weavers, and so they'll become quite familiar voices and faces, taking us into our spidery connectedness. And seed librarians, let's hear from you.
Cool, I can kick us off. So the seed library, to start off, like, it's a metaphor that we inherited around exchanging project documentation. There used to be a scrapbook that funded projects would fill out, as if there were seeds that other practitioners could then plant and grow in their own context. Ideally, also when their project fruits, they would have more seeds to go back into the library, I guess. And we've stripped back that metaphor a little bit this year for clarity, as we've redesigned some of the structure and the communication. So you see on our Notion database at the moment are templates for projects and activities that we've curated. A project is kind of more of a case study, more of a blog. It contains a lot about your behind the scenes learning and anything you want to put in. And an activity is more of a practice recipe. It's more of a facilitation guide. It's something that you can take away and use pragmatically. And so the seed library as a metaphor is still there to massage this year. I think the central themes of growth and reciprocity really remain, and we'd love to come back to that. Some of the questions that we've been asking this year is like, how could our seed library, our community documentation platform, become a bit like a community garden, something that we want to, as a wider community, want to tend to together. And in that case, what would it have to be like to give us aliveness by tending to this thing? Maybe the metaphor is a bit more like permaculture or agroforestry or something, but the design principles we keep coming back to is that it should be connective, relational, and animated, and something we want to give and receive from. So yeah, that's the metaphor. I mean, side note, if anybody has been in a part of a online or synchronous, asynchronous space that's felt a little bit like a community garden in some way, please feel free to drop in the chat what type of a good experience or what led to that. And so carrying on with some of the stuff, I'll speak about the harvesting sessions in Hilo in a bit. Tim, do you want to jump in with anything around the JRF collab or curation at this point?
Yeah, so I know some people have seen there's part of the Joseph Rowntree Foundation website where they've got Collective Imagination Practice Toolkit, which sounds a lot like the Seed Library, which is a gathering of collective imagination practices. So they're Joseph Rowntree Foundation, obviously the main funders of the collective imagination practice community, and we've been having a conversation with them to basically say, how do these two things fit together? And basically, we hope to get to the point where we're going to elevate some of the practices which come from our community, which come from our funded projects and other practitioners in the community, onto that collective imagination tools website, basically to increase the visibility of practitioners. It seems that Joseph Rowntree Foundation have got lots of policymakers and change makers who've heard of this thing called collective imagination, probably not connected directly to it. So that's an avenue that we want to develop and create that as an opportunity for collective imagination practitioners. For those of you who are looking to work with policymakers and change makers, that's something that we hope to be able to offer in future. And the new platform, particularly Hilo, which Chris is going to talk about, will probably help with that, because it's really meant to be a way of giving some substance to our community, so that we can map ourselves, we can talk about the different themes that we're working on. So that's the plan.
Or I'll talk to Hilo first and then the harvesting sessions then, seeing that we've teased it a few times. So this year, very, very soon, we will be experimenting with a new online community platform. Some of you might know, it's called Hilo. It'll be a place where we can make posts, start discussions, send messages to each other, coordinate. And we've chosen Hilo because it's open source. They follow very pro-social principles. They have a very responsible stewardship team. And its selling point is to enable horizontal coordination, which is something that we want to increasingly open the community up to. It looks a little different for some other platforms. You won't have to use Hilo, but it should be an upgrade from our WhatsApp chat at the moment, which is a little bit disorganized. And we're hoping it can be a space for surfacing support, for answering the questions of just like, what are you up to? What is your question? Spaces for challenge. Particularly, we're really excited about it enabling local groups to meet each other. There's a map functionality. If you choose to share your location, you can see other practitioners. We've had a lot of requests from other members in the community to meet other like-minded projects and people. So we're really hoping that, yeah, this will help facilitate that. And we will kick it off a couple of days before the unconference. We'll send out an invite for anybody who wants to poke around. And during the unconference that Tim was speaking about, we will use particularly the offers and needs, or offers and requests functionality of Hilo to see how we might be able to match some of the resources that we need and can give in enabling each other's practices that are beyond or in addition to financial capital. So yeah, stay tuned for that coming out, the Hilo activation via offer and needs for the unconference. We'll also have a dedicated Hilo onboarding session where we'll get to meet up and help each other unstuck to join the platform and to continue to kind of facilitate our network weaving of the community, mapping and meeting each other. That will be on the 14th of July, but stay tuned. I'm sure you'll get all of these dates in an email anyway. The harvesting sessions coming up from the seed library to help support documentation. Should I continue? Tim, do you want to start? Yeah, I'll continue. So we'll have two sessions this year in September and October. Again, the dates will come to you by email. And the theme of these sessions where we meet online together are for documentation. The primary audience is for funded projects, funded practitioners to document their projects, but by no means limited to. The extended audience is for anybody who would like some accountability or some reciprocity in documenting a part of their practice, even if you haven't quite finished it yet. We will probably use the format in the seed library for the activity that we have of a section for inviting your audience, for framing your activity, the actual imagining part, and the harvesting thereafter. So depending on where you are in your project life cycle, you might have all of those or only a bit of them. And yeah, we'll be on hand to help you document. And if things go well towards the end of the year, we hope to open the seed library up, the curatorial role as more of like a collectively held responsibility, where the seed librarians are not the bottleneck between anybody adding any shared commonwealth of practice. And we've thrown around some ideas like maybe anybody can write on the seed library as long as you're joined by two other peers as a bit of a sounding board, just to make sure that we have clarity. And yeah, so that's the harvesting sessions. Stay tuned for help documentation. Anything I missed, Tim?
Seems great. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, seed librarians. So the launch of Hilo, the unconference, and harvesting sessions. Wow, it's a lot, isn't it? It's all coming down the tubes, folks. And before we finish, some people have had to leave, we're gonna spend a bit of time in small groups together because it's all been lots of chatting by us lot from the front to tune back into that story we started with. And I've put in the chat 3 questions to shape your conversation. You're just going to be meeting with 1 or 2 other people for about 10 minutes. And I honestly, it's a choice of these questions. I'm not asking you to cover all of them, just whichever one most speaks to you. The first one was, what story, image or moment felt most vibrant to you from that story we heard from Devon? Does it give you any insights into your life right now? The second one is, what are the new possibilities being woven into your world right now? And the third is, what has your inner fire helped you achieve this year? Whichever of those feels like something you can speak to. We're going to have a little over 10 minutes. So I'm going to give a broadcast when it feels about time to switch to another person. But this is just an opportunity to get to know someone else in the community and to share a bit about your world and this practice we've shared. If you are jumping off, please do so now so Anna can sort the breakout rooms rather than sort of hanging on and not being there. And everybody else, please do go to one of Anna's breakouts.
Hello.
Anna, does that mean you can get to chat with anybody?
People were dropping in.
Okay, very nice.
Yeah. Just waiting for everyone else to come back in as well.
Hello, everyone. I had such a wonderful chit chat with Jovian. I'm sure all of you had a great time. Wasn't long enough, and because it wasn't enough, I'm very happy to stay on the call for another 15 minutes. If anyone says, no, can I have another 5 minutes or 10 minutes or 15 minutes with my person, or even just wants to hang out and share anything in the group altogether, or has any questions about our session today, I'm very happy to stay for another 15 minutes. But otherwise, thank you for joining us for our solstice meeting and all of this cascading glorious coming your way. And yeah, if you want to leave, you may leave now. And if you want to stay, you're very welcome. Thank you for joining.
Happy solstice, y'all. Thanks.
Lovely to see you all. Take care.
Thank you.
I don't mind hanging about for a bit, Hannah.
Great. Lovely. Good, nice to see you, Jess.
Lovely to see you too. And thank you so much to Jake for giving those links. I think he might have gone now, but it was so helpful because I'm getting so many of the kind of bug-eyed expressions every time. They're like, so what do you do? And I'm like, well, it's like imaginal stuff. And it's certainly imaginal money, that's for sure. But yeah, as soon as one starts getting onto challenging the dominant paradigms and capitalisms, people are like, okay. Yeah, so it's wonderful to try and get some A, sort of like being able to vent, but B, just any kind of tips on people's elevator pitches in a way that kind of relates to, you know, the everyday person or policyholder would just be really helpful. So yeah.
Can I offer what I use?
Please do, yeah.
So often, like right now, a lot of us are just like frozen in fear of like, oh my God, everything is wrong and blah, blah, blah. And like, so I often turn people towards kids, like watching the like, oh, you notice how everything is possible? You notice how it doesn't matter if they were told that like gravity means that like you're never going to be able to fly. They're flying, they're like jumping off of trees, jumping off of like whatever. They're flying everywhere. It doesn't matter what other people think they're doing. They are flying. And our brains don't know the difference between telling a story and living something in reality. So if we can create it in our imagination, then we can create it in reality. Because literally there is no difference in our systems. And so like I just kind of like use kids to guide us back to like, cool.
Yeah.
And now imagine instead, because you're already imagining, we are already imagining all of the worst possible things. What we're doing is just helping us imagine all of the beautiful things that we actually want, need, and deserve.
Yeah.
And then making them true by literally just telling ourselves stories.
That's such a good thing, and it's that childlike imagination and joy, isn't it? And I use because I work with civic paths at USC, so Henry Jenkins, I don't know if you've ever heard of him. He's a quite a famous sort of media professor, but he talks about building the worlds we want and not just the worlds we're fighting against. So I love that line. Yeah, they're now starting to use collective imagination in our research group, and I keep going, there's literally collective imagination. Like that's the whole thing. So yeah, it's kind of funny. I want the two groups to kind of join more, but we'll see.
I say if I'm lucky enough to be one of the ones who gets to be her after, I want to have a plan and something that I know how to build. And usually that shifts the dialogue. I'm like, I'm here for a reason, right? Because fear is paralyzing, and that's why it's so toxic. Because if you allow it to extinguish your connection to your power, then you've been overcome by it. So I don't think it's irresponsible to focus on the future or irresponsible to focus on joy and hope and better systems. I actually think it's really necessary, because some of us might be extinguished, but for the rest of us, if we get to be in that group, what are we going to build?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of the way I talk about it.
That's so true. Do you get, though, again, like managing other people's discomfort, because people don't want to think about what's happening, whereas like you're saying, the fact that I find it comforting to think, hey, I've got a plan, I'm actually thinking ahead rather than trying not to think about it. I mean, obviously sometimes we've got to do a bit of both, but
it gives me inner peace to know that I'm actually putting my gifts into practice. And I tell other people, I had a conversation with my sister yesterday, and I was like, this is the time when you need to shine the brightest. This is the time when you need to raise your kids to be the most loving possible. It's when you need to have the best harvest from your garden. It's when you need to settle conflicts with your husband. It's when you need to stay resilient, because we're not just one group, we're a grid. So if you stay strong, people around you can stay strong. So it's go into protector energy. Protector energy is it's powerful, and if that's what you're being asked to do right now because of where you're located, if I was in a war zone, I would be in a different mode. I might be in infiltrate mode or something. I was if I get drafted in the military, I might go into destabilize, politics mode. But from where I am, the mode that is really serving, I think, is protecting the people around me and staying strong and staying focused on innovation, really leaning into big ideas.
I think just to stay strong as well, we have to take care of ourselves. So coming from a mental health background is sometimes that means putting ourselves first and stepping back. And like you're saying, that grid network, if somebody else can tag team in too. I mean, yeah, I love that. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much.
It's beautiful. Anybody else? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean this one's really, I mean, the really important thing is like, who are you talking to? Because it's different for different people. They're like, you got to think, what's the hook for them? What's the bit of their world that you're talking about can speak to? If it's um if it's someone in a community setting, I think I would probably say something like, you know, most people feel really disheartened by politics, but most people want their community to be better connected, more resilient, more hopeful, more able to decide what happens around here. And I'm interested in how we can make that happen, but not in a way that constrains what we think might be possible, but releases it. If we can't imagine it, we can't do it. If we don't allow ourselves at least to imagine together, how can we do together? Just something really simple like that. If you can't imagine it, you can't do it, is really sort of obvious. And you can link it to anything. You know, you can sort of say, if you haven't imagined your front door is going to be red instead of blue, you can't do it, can you? You know, it's really like even the most simple thing, actually, you have to imagine first. And another one I sort of say is like, you know, find out what kind of entertainment people are into. So, for example, you know, what are you into? You're into computer games, you're into going to theatre, do you like art, do you like music? And people usually say whatever it might be, computer games. And I'll say, okay, so why is it that you never go to modern dance? And then if you ask them that, and they'll go, I don't know anything about it. Oh, have you ever imagined what it might be? Have you ever imagined yourself there? No. Oh, well, you know, maybe if you did, then you might want to go. Like, you know, actually, we don't go to the things we can't imagine ourselves in. I've never been to a betting shop. I've never gone and placed a bet on a horse. I've no idea how to do it. I have never even tried to imagine it as a thing I could do. You know, so it immediately shuts down to me as something I would ever do, because it's not something I've ever imagined myself doing. And so the imagination to foreshadow what's possible, that's another thing I sometimes, depends on who people are. And then another one I think is like, when people say there's no point in imagining because we can't make it happen because the system's already stuck, like it just feels like we're not in power to, so what's the point in imagining because we can't do anything anyway. And I'll say, yeah, it does feel like that, and in many ways it is like that. But if you know if you know there's a big flood coming, then you're going to go training swimming, you know, or boat navigating or something like this. You know, you're going to start training. When I do imagination work, I am rehearsing, I am training for when the conditions are right for it to actually sort of set seed, because this is what we're going to need for a future that is unimaginable at the moment. So I also sometimes say this is rehearsing, it's training, I'm in training.
I love that.
And
It's
it's a
really
hopeful
beautiful.
training, isn't it? It's a hopeful
Yeah,
training.
I
Yeah.
love that
That's
so
so
much.
important. Yeah, I love that. Like, and it's such a gift for humanity, isn't it? Imagination. It gets locked down so quickly. You know, it always takes me back to Margaret Thatcher, "There is no alternative." And then you look back and you think, we used to think that in the divine right of kings, you know, and then we executed them. So it's like it's amazing to me, like how humans can get so locked down in it being, you know, like money, we believe in it and it's actually worthless, you know.
Imaginary. And
Yeah.
that's another one, Jess. I sometimes say, you know, it used to be that everyone was in the global north, or most people, the vast majority of people in the global north were in agreement that the transatlantic slave industry was acceptable. And now our collective, that's a good one for sort of explaining collective imagination. Now collectively we all agree it's absolutely unacceptable. But those people weren't different from us. They weren't like, they were all bad people and now we're all good people. They just had a different collective imagination. And so when we collectively imagine something together, it becomes real, just like money. That little bit of plastic that says it's worth 20 English pounds or $100. I think there's still paper in the US. But you know, that one's worth $100, and then another bit of paper that is an old flyer for a, you know, a TV show or something, like is worth nothing, but it's the same actual thing. Or an empty chip packet and my plastic note, that we have imagined that the plastic note is worth more. Physically, it's worth no more. So what can we imagine? You know, those kinds of examples give people, and I think like when you're talking about what you're doing, you're saying like we often forget how to imagine and how to imagine together something new. And so what I do is I help to create the conditions in which we can imagine together and imagine something new, and just begin to work that muscle together. And as we do it together, more things become possible. It's better than if you do it on your own.
It's so true, that, isn't it? The idea of what's acceptable, it can actually change really quickly, although those conditions can take a long while. If you think about, you know, decriminalizing homosexuality, for example,
yeah,
you know, that all those sort of things, all these sort of kind of issues about what's acceptable, and of course what's happening is we're getting a real regression in certain elements of society, but you can still flip it the other way. Yeah. Oh, that's really inspiring. Thank you.
I like what everyone is saying, and also what Hannah was saying about value and about how it's like agreed upon value. And I think that like the power of these kinds of spaces and groups is to say, get together in a group that's smaller than one and to get together and say, hey, this handful of ideas are valuable and we're going to nourish them. Even if it's with a micro grant and not a mega grant, even if it's with a circle instead of, you know, a stadium, like we're like these ideas that we collectively decide are going to get nourished and nurtured. Like they get to grow from a speck of dust that never would have become anything into a seed into, you know, a plan, into a practice. So it like, I think like to me, someone who brings really like out of the box ideas, like super out of the box, that seem to just come to me like straight from source, like do this, like, and it will help like humanity, like to find space for there to be spaces where I can like share those like gifts that come to me, you know, and be able to nourish them and nurture them and transfer them to other people. Like it just wouldn't happen because the entrenched systems that we have, the money is very locked. Like the predominant amount of the money is very locked into certain values and into certain hands, and it shifts hands based on like usually the principle of keeping the money in the same hands. Like that's usually the main principle that drives it. It's like keep the money from moving. And like if we want to create like distribution, like greater distribution, which is like something I deeply stand for, is just better distribution to encourage greater innovation and to bring in especially like perspectives that are not usually nourished so that we can cure the world from this very like singular pointed, you know, set of values. It's not really, that's kind of beating itself because it doesn't work anymore. So it's like in these small, like co-coordinated, co-stewarded groups that we can set new values and we can be more daring. So it's like that, those are the spaces where innovation crops up. You know, it doesn't crop up in, you know, the central zone. It doesn't usually, because the values are so set and so strong in those spaces. The conformity is so intense. So it really is quite necessary, almost like to a intense extreme, like spaces like this for innovation. Like this is like the key ingredients of innovation are existing in these kinds of spaces. So we shouldn't feel small. We should feel really important. You know, like we have that exact mix of things that are needed.
That's so true. And I know what you mean. I find this all the time. It's like, how can one break out of such a system when it's so entrenched, despite the fact it's so toxic and driving us towards extinction. But it's so difficult when you've got this. I know it's much broader than just the 1%, but and a lot of that is like giving people other ways of doing things. And so much of my work about systems change and building new systems, which I'm an introvert, I'm not really, has been in the last couple of years. Well, practically, how do people do these things? Because it's like, if they're going to heal themselves, if they're going to do the work that they need to, they're going to need different ways of doing things rather than these systems that are locking them in. So yeah, sort of the work creates itself, really. But yeah, Hannah, you said you only got 15 minutes, so I think we're
there's one last little thing I would like to read. I'm sure you're familiar with this book.
Oh, you know what? I'm not, so this is a new one for me.
Okay.
Processing modernity.
Processing modernity. You familiar, Jovian?
No, that's just incredible already.
Yeah. Okay, this is from page 37. If you find yourself wondering what political or ideological position does this book want me to align with, the answer is, I'm not asking you to align with anything. I don't know your context. I don't know what's happening around you. All I am asking of you is to be open to the head-heart experiment. I'm also not trying to please you or play to your expectations, simply because I am not trying to recruit you to anything. The point of this book is not to gather followers. This has been tried before and has failed every time. I lovingly don't care about what you think, but I care deeply about our collective capacity to dig deeper and relate wider. In order to make possible deeper engagements and better relationships, we will need to reactivate capacities for sensing, relating, and imagining that have been deactivated within modernity. This does not require you to abandon convictions, just the arrogance, indifference, and contempt that modernity has implanted in all of us. Generative disenchantment and disillusionment with modernity's modes of relationship are indispensable aspects of hospicing modernity, processing its teachings and composting its waste. This creates new fertile soil for other possibilities of existence to emerge. There is a popular saying in Brazil that illustrates this insight using water rather than soil as a metaphor. The saying goes that in a flood situation, it is only when the water reaches people's hips that it becomes possible for them to swim. Before that, with the water at our ankles or knees, it is only possible to walk or to wade. In other words, we might only be able to learn to swim, that is, to exist differently, once we have no other choice. People's priorities are bound to the level of water around them. As the waters rise, but have not yet reached our hips, we can prepare by learning to open ourselves to the teachings of the water, as well as the teachings of those swimming for their lives against multiple currents of colonial violence. This is the same violence that supports our comforts and securities within modernity.
Wow.
Good, isn't it?
That's so good.
It's incredible. And you're so right about the rising levels.
Yeah, page 37 and 38, that one. But I mean, the whole thing's brilliant.
I've described before, like, living in this time that we live in as like walking outside of my house as being like going into hurricane force winds of like, so the water metaphor I really liked, like the hurricane force winds of like capitalism and patriarchy and just the intensity of people's fear and those belief systems feeling like, and then trying to anchor in something different when I'm at home, when I'm writing, when I'm creating, like trying to anchor it in and then going out and being like, oh. So I really relate. That really resonated with me. Thank you for sharing that.
Can I just add one last thing talking about that, Jovian, which I really get. I really get that feeling. I just had a revelation yesterday thinking about all of that and looking at some young boys in my neighborhood who already had that look that they get when, you know, I don't want to sound like really kind of, but, you know, you can tell that patriarchy's been at them, and thinking about all the horrible kind of things out in the world, I actually suddenly thought, actually, this makes me feel a lot of faith in humanity, because actually there's so many horrible things out there, and the fact that we do still have a lot of decent people, and quite a few people will still help you out, even, I mean, not everybody and not every circumstance, but I actually thought, given the amount of abuse, the amount of trauma, the amount of power these systems have, I suddenly had it flipped around in my head for the first time yesterday. I just thought, I'm kind of amazed at humans' resilience and our basic decency, that although we'll have these horrible things, usually bad news travels faster, and we've got that kind of threat perception in our bias that's well known in our head about, you know, bad things. She thought there's a lot of people, even in deprived areas I live in, that would help you out. And, you know,
Definitely.
so yeah, I just suddenly thought that, and I just wanted to add that, because I really feel what you're saying a lot. And yeah,
Definitely. This is an awful thing in many ways, but I always notice, you know, I live in London and there's lots of cyclists, and, you know, people come off their bikes. They're only very occasionally because of bad driving. Often it's because there's something in the road, or there's a hole in the road or something. But it's not, I mean, it is uncommon, but occasionally I cycle everywhere as well. Sometimes I'm the person who comes off the bike, but there's always immediately lots of people wanting to help me, check I'm all right. You know, do you know what I mean? It's like immediately. And sometimes I'm cycling and I see someone sitting on the edge of the road looking shaken up, and I know what's happened. And there's 5 or 6 people around them. You know,
That's
someone's
amazing.
offering them water. Someone's calling the police if that's needed. Someone's just encouraging them just to take their time and to breathe and to really notice if they're hurting anywhere. You know, it just, and someone's just, and then others are just staying with them because they don't want them to be alone. And it always happens.
yeah.
And, you know, that is who people really are.
I think that's true. I think we've got those dark sides, or those more animalistic sides that aren't integrated very well, which is my whole thesis. But a lot of it is that altruism, isn't it? Is that kind of like wanting to help. So yeah, that dual side of us. Oh, thank you so much. It's been really great to catch up with you all, and you know, do reach out. I'll put my email in the chat if anyone ever wants to get in touch, time zones and work permitting. But yeah, it's been really good to talk with you all. I won't hold you up anymore. I've got to get on myself, but yeah.
Thank you, everyone. And Jovian, get in touch.
Yeah. Take care.
I will. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.